Welcome into another edition of the Stripe Show podcast. You're watching this and thinking, wait a second, it's not Wednesdays. Froggy hosts on Wednesdays. Well, it's a special edition this week. I am here on your Thursday. Normally, Travis hosts Thursdays with an instructor, and it's a lot of instructor to instructor talk. Well, today, you're getting a pretty average player talking to one of the best instructors in the game. Named, once again, one of golf.com's top 100 instructors in the U.S., Andrew Rice, thank you so much for joining us today on the Stripe Show podcast.
Froggy, it's great to be on. Thanks for having me. Glad we can get together and banter a little bit. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it'll be great. You know, it's fun. I love golf talk. I am a complete golf fanatic, golf nerd, however you want to describe it. And we share actually somebody that I'm friends with. His name's Doug. He I saw him the other day at the range. I saw what he was working on, and I said, okay, you've been seeing somebody really good with what you're working on. And he told me that he had seen you, and so that's kind of how we linked up. And I know that you know Travis, but
yes.
I've just got so many questions because golf instruction has changed so much in the last 10 years that I have so many questions to ask you.
Let's go, Froggy. I'm thankful that it's changed. I'm sure you are too. It really is. We're going to continue to get better, but I feel like golf instruction is in a better place right now, certainly than it was a decade or so ago.
Oh, for sure, 100%. Because I think that there's so much more technology in our game, and that has really helped out. But as we're having this conversation, the John Deere has teed off. We've already seen the first round of the Scottish Open. A lot of guys playing over the Scottish Open this week because the Open Championship is next week. So they kind of go over and get that feel a week early. Do you think that's a good thing to do, to go over and start out early and kind of deal with the weather and deal with the elements?
I would certainly do it. It would be a no-brainer. It looks like they're going to have quite a bit of rain this week at Renaissance in Scotland. And it's just a case of getting that rain suit on and off, and the caddy getting the umbrella and the towels going, and just that whole way that works. And you've, I'm sure, played golf in the rain. I've played golf in the rain. Yeah. It's a different animal, not to mention playing golf in the rain and the cold and the wind, when we're all over here in the States getting accustomed to summertime and it's warmer, and it's very different. I think it's a great idea to get over there. And I know a lot of the players way back when used to go perhaps even 2 weeks before and play a whole little rotation and almost do like a Scotland links trip and go and play all these different golf courses. I would highly encourage, if I was coaching someone playing in the Open Championship, I would encourage them to get over there and do that.
Have we seen where it has paid off for guys who have won, possibly by going over and doing that and getting used to the elements rather than playing here, like you said, in the States and used to the sunshine and it's beautiful, and then just get like smacked in the face by that weather when you get there?
Froggy, it would be interesting to track. And nowadays, you want to talk about golf instruction, and I think so much of golf instruction has been upgraded due to knowledge and data. That would be something I'm sure somebody could track and say, this player went over early, this player didn't, and let's find a bunch of players who didn't go and a bunch of players who did go, and just compare the outcomes and go, it's worthwhile going. I think everybody's a little bit different, but I would certainly be one to favor going.
Yeah, I agree. I think it does make sense to go over and kind of get used to that element. Plus, you're not dealing with the jet lag and the travel and all that heading over. Because those guys that are at the John Deere, I know they're going to travel over late Sunday and get there early Monday morning, but it's still a big difference than guys who are going to spend a week or, like you said, even 2 weeks over. So
one comment there, Froggy. If you've ever been over to Europe to play golf, that first day is the toughest day of golf you'll ever play in your life, because you fly overnight. Certainly from the East Coast where we're based, it's not that long a flight. You don't really have enough time to get to sleep. You get there in the morning, you're all pumped up, you're all charged up. You hopefully can get in your hotel room early. You can check in early, maybe take an hour nap, and then head out and play the golf course in the afternoon. Well, your head is spinning all day on day one. And so that's really, that day's gone.
Right, exactly. So you have fewer days to get acclimated, where if you go a week or 2 weeks early, you've got a much better chance. Did you watch much of the match yesterday afternoon?
I did. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. Phil Mickelson is an absolute no-brainer for these things, and it was so great to watch Phil very covertly try to get into Bryson's head, get into Aaron Rodgers' game, and it was it was it was a work of art in just trying to get into your opponent's head very nicely and very quietly. I thought he did a great job. It was always good to listen to the banter, and just cool. I think they're going to learn each time. It got a little slow on the back nine. They could certainly speed it up, but some of those shots, I thought Tom Brady, especially Aaron Rodgers, I thought they were fantastic. I thought they played much better this time. Tom Brady got a little loose towards the end, but Aaron Rodgers was amazing.
Yeah, Aaron was really good on the greens, and we'll talk about how important that is here during the podcast. But I'm a huge Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. I'm very happy to have Tom Brady as my quarterback. As you know,
Yes.
it paid off in a Super Bowl in the first year. But are we finally seeing something that maybe Tom Brady's not perfect at? Because it seems that he's perfect at everything. And so maybe golf is something that he does struggle at a little bit, just like the rest of us. But like you said, he did get a little loose on the back nine, but Aaron Rodgers was money on the greens yesterday.
He really was. Aaron was hitting that little butter cutter out there, driver. I saw Tom Brady put up 170-mile-an-hour ball speed. And if you know ball speeds, that is not something to laugh at. 170 has been a goal of mine for quite a while now, and I still haven't got there. But 170 ball speed is the real deal.
Wow.
You think about Phil's top ball speed that I noticed was 178. And so for Tom Brady to put that up, I think looking at his swing, I think if Tom Brady played more, we would very quickly realize that he's awesome. He's awesome. He's one of those people that's awesome at everything.
Right. He really is. He does appear to be. But I was going to ask you that. When you look at Aaron and you look at Tom Brady's swing looks more fundamentally sound.
It does.
If he played more, he would figure the face out.
Yeah.
Because that seems to be where the problem is. The path looks pretty good. The face is usually a little bit open when he does miss out to the right.
Yes. Tom Brady's got one of those swings that looks pretty. Yet when you see that shot tracer taken off, it seemed like there was a lot of those shots that came about. He hit some beauties, but there were a lot of those kind of shots where you would go, wow, that swing shouldn't really lead to that outcome. And I think, with a little bit of good instruction and just more time put in, he would straighten things out. Predictability. You look at Aaron Rodgers as a contrast. So many golfers are looking to play better. Aaron Rodgers didn't look better. His setup didn't look as correct. His swing didn't look as correct as Tom Brady's. Yet, who had the predictable ball flight? Aaron Rodgers hit that beautiful little butter cutter out there. It was predictable. He knew where to aim it. He had plenty of speed. And he can play some nice golf. Predictability matters.
Yeah, it does. It's not all about how it looks on camera. It's the ball flight doesn't lie. And Aaron did hit the ball in the middle of the fairway yesterday a lot more than Tom did. And on the greens, he made almost every single putt he had to look at. He made it,
he was money. He was money on the greens.
He really was. Andrew, a lot of people think that the best coaches in the game are coaching tour players, and we know that that's not the case. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Froggy, I think most of the best coaches in the game are coaching tour players, but there are a percentage of passionate coaches, I'll say, who have decided to not chase the tour, who have angled their information towards the everyday golfer. And I certainly have been one of those, and I aspire to help the masses. I want to help golfers just get out there and enjoy themselves. I like to think of myself as an experienced, seasoned, qualified coach. And I know there's more than a handful of great coaches out there who don't coach tour players. But I would say most of the top coaches in the game end up coaching tour players.
From when I first started taking lessons, we're going to go back 10, 15 years ago when I first took my first lesson, I was told, swing from the inside, roll your hands over, and swing out to right field. And that's what I was told. And that's what, when you would go to the golf course, that's exactly what other people were trying to do. And that's the way golf instruction was taught back then. but a lot has changed. And now you hear a lot of exit low and left, swinging left, a lot of rotation. What has caused the change, almost the 180-degree change in golf instruction?
Froggy, I think this is really what's happened with golf over the last 20 years. The same thing that's happened with golf instruction is via technology, via data, our knowledge base has improved. We understand things better. We understand the value of hitting it far. We understand the value of moving the handle inward and upward through impact so we can manage the face that much better. And so we have this data, we have this knowledge, and via the internet, which is the best coach out there if you know where to look. And that is the challenge for a lot of golfers and coaches who are looking to improve their information, is knowing where to look. If you know where to look, you can find some really, really helpful information to help you play better. But we just understand things better via that technology, via that data. We understand how it all works, how it all fits. Mark Crossfield, a buddy of mine, he shared an interesting story. He said, Jack Nicklaus comes along and Jack Nicklaus hits it far, and everyone says, oh, that Nicklaus boy's really strong and he's a good putter, and that's why he's good. And Jack cleans up. And Jack goes away, and we get an era of precision golf, where it's a case of golf instruction is talking about resistance and keeping your feet on the ground. And we get Nick Faldo and Nick Price and Corey Pavin, and we get Tom Kite, and it becomes this era where precision is so important. Well, in the middle of this era, this guy from Arkansas comes along named John Daly and just somehow steals 2 majors from everybody. And we go, man, he's got great hands. You know, he hits it far, yeah, but he's got great hands, and that's why he's good, and that's why he won. And John Daly kind of fades off, and we continue with a little bit of precision golf for a few years. And then this kid in a red shirt starts smashing the golf ball. And we start to get data, and we start to understand why Tiger Woods is so good. It's because he hits it so far. It's because he's great in controlling his irons, in controlling his approach shots. But with that onset of that data and that knowledge, we start to understand why Jack Nicklaus was so good, why John Daly popped in and stole 2 majors from these great golfers in that era when John Daly was a force to be reckoned with. And we start to understand Tiger Woods and Bubba Watson and Rory McIlroy and Bryson, and why they're all so good. So you look at what Phil has done. What Phil has done at the age of 51 is really incredible. He's recommitted himself to the game, but in a very different way. He's gotten in shape. He's worked hard on his speed. It was awesome in the PGA to see Phil, pop that one drive. I think it was on 15 or 16. Bryson tees off and Phil pops one like 5 yards past him. That's incredible. What a shot in the arm for Phil Mickelson and old guys like myself, to be able to go, hey, it can be done. If you commit yourself to hitting it longer, and we know now that length, distance of the tee has great value simply because it gets us closer to the hole. If we're closer to the hole, we're going to be able to score better. We just understand things so much better, whether it comes to the golf swing or ground pressure or statistically what's going to help us. We understand things much better. That's only going to continue to improve as we move along.
Rapsodo Mobile Launch Monitor. Improve your golf swing today. Pro level launch data in the palm of your hand. It is very accurate, within 2% of a $20,000 unit. The Rapsodo MLM app automatically tracks stats and stores video with Shot Tracer, helpful for club gapping and understanding true distances for each club. Rapsodo MLM provides immediate feedback, data, and creates a better practice environment, not mindlessly hitting balls. Extremely portable, cases about the size of a rangefinder. And you know what? You can use it both indoors and outdoors. I love this launch monitor. It's the Rapsodo Mobile Launch Monitor. Check it out at rapsodo.com, rapsodo.com, rapsodo.com.
So would you say that there's a greater appreciation for distance than there is accuracy now?
I think the data shows that. Certainly accuracy matters. Accuracy still matters. But if you look at the top 10 drivers, strokes gained on the PGA Tour, there's not a lot of short hitters in that group.
No, there's not. No, the days of, Zach Johnson was able to clean up 2 majors, and that he didn't do it with length; he did it with precision. But now I think you're seeing that there are so many guys coming into the sport that it feels like, and every generation says this, but it really feels like right now there is so much talent at every level. What I feel like is probably deeper talent than we've ever seen before in our game.
Right. I think it's that knowledge base. I think it's that knowledge base. Certainly now golf is way more of a global game. We're getting players from Japan. We're getting players from Australia, South Africa, South America. Whereas in the past it was a European American game for the most part. But it's this. We've got the whole planet involved now. The word is out. And people are tapping into that training and the ways of practicing, the ways of swinging, the ways of getting in shape, the ways of hitting a ball further. And they start to understand that stuff. And now all of a sudden we have more players that can reach their potential. And so that's why I think it seems that way. There's no doubt that the gene pool from 1970 to 2020 is the same.
Right.
It's just how we use those genes and how we use those golfers and that equipment. Our understanding of that is so much further down the road.
The big thing right now that everybody's talking about in modern instruction is shallowing the shaft. So at the top where the shaft is a little laid off, or even if you're across the line, that first move is to drop the shaft down, to kind of lay it down a little bit before you rotate. Why is shallowing the shaft being over discussed now? Is it too much, or is that something that is really important?
It is something that's important. I think it's a little over discussed. It gets the stamp of approval on Instagram, it seems, and then everybody runs with it. But if you look at golfers of every ability, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, and then you go to your 18, 20 handicappers. Most higher handicap golfers, the club head, and let's just keep it real here. If I've got the shaft there, the club head is more behind me. If I'm standing the shaft up, the club head is almost more in front of me. And so it's really where the club head is positioned in the early part of the downswing. We don't need a big shallowing. Tiger Woods never had a mega shallow move. Jack Nicklaus never had a mega shallow move. I wouldn't say either of them were steep by any means. There's a lot of golfers who are steep, and as a result of that steepness, they struggle to be able to rotate through impact. But if we can just get every golfer getting that club head just slightly inside in the early part of the downswing, now they've given themselves that ability, that incentive to be able to go ahead and rotate. And when players can rotate, they can manage the face better. And controlling the face when you're swinging fast, and a lot of people can swing fast, but controlling the face when you're swinging fast, that's where the gold lies.
So somebody like Matt Wolff needs to shallow because he is so steep going back. He's straight up going back. So that shallow needs to happen. But if somebody who tends to be laid off a little bit, they don't need to shallow as much.
Perfect example is Matt Wolff versus Jon Rahm.
Okay.
Matt Wolff's pointing the club that way. Jon Rahm's pointing the club that way at the top. But if you match them up, if you overlay one swing over the other, by the time the club gets parallel to the ground approaching impact, they're almost identical.
Okay, so that's why. So the shallowing aspect is really more important the more you are across the line and pointing the club for a right-handed golfer to the right of the target at the top versus somebody who's really laid off, much like Jon Rahm is.
Yes, correct. And I'll also say, Froggy, this is important for golfers to understand. I think if you have a short backswing and your club is across the line, you don't have the time necessary to go ahead and shallow, get the club head back to the inside. You look at Phil Mickelson, you look at Freddie Couples is a beautiful example. Freddie Couples, really long, gets that elbow up there, but he takes all the time that he needs to get that club head back in the right spot that he needs it, and he can go ahead and rotate beautifully through impact. Longer swings are okay across the line. Shorter swings are no good across the line simply because they don't have time to get that club head organized.
Now, where are you standing on, for example, knee flexion? You see some players like Brooks and some other guys, Jason Day, have tried to keep their right knee flexed on the backswing, where now seems to be a lot of, you can let the right leg straighten a little bit and get your right hip a little higher on your backswing.
I would say in that precision era that I mentioned earlier, there was a lot of keep the flex in the trail knee, keep both feet on the ground, create a lot of that stretch between the upper body and the lower body. And as we look at great players through all eras, we see players that keep the flex and we see players that lose the flex. And I think really the message should be, if you're successful keeping the flex, if you can get that club way back there and you hit it plenty far enough and you keep the flex, go ahead, keep doing it. But I'm going to encourage the players that I teach, mostly players who don't hit it far enough, mostly players who are somewhat inflexible. I'm going to encourage them to get a little bit of lengthening, a little bit of loss in that flex, in that trail leg as they get into the backswing, just to help lengthen out the backswing. The longer the backswing, the more ability the player's got to generate speed.
As far as spine angle goes, because spine angle seems to be something that you hear a lot of discussion about.
Yeah.
How do you explain spine angle to an amateur and what needs to happen for it to be positive?
I know there's a lot of misinformation pertaining to spine angle. Spine angle, oftentimes when people say spine angle, they're referring to, well, I'm in this posture at address, I want to be in that posture at impact. I'm losing my spine angle. I'm standing up through impact. Some of the best players of all time had a little bit of that stand up. They never had a tremendous amount, but some of the best players had a little bit of that loss of spine angle. It's important. I would explain to really any golfer, not a beginner perhaps, but someone who's played a little bit of golf, how the spine works. And the spine moves in so many different ways throughout the course of the swing. We've got right side bend, left side bend, extension, backwards, and flexion. The spine bends forwards, backwards, left, and right during the backswing. It's not just, we're not just rotating our body around this pole that's pegged in the ground.
Should you try to do that or no? Because I've seen a lot of players that really, you see somebody, they're trying to rotate just around their spine angle, but there is a lot of movement.
Yeah, I would encourage people to not try to rotate around that imaginary pole. That is not a good way to build up a lot of energy in the backswing. It's not a good way to create a lot of speed through impact. And speed, we know now, matters a lot. Distance matters.
Speed is important. And we've learned a lot of this. I know you're a certified TrackMan guy. So what are the most important things we have learned from TrackMan? Because somebody like me, an average amateur, can't go spend the 20 grand that it takes to buy a TrackMan. So what are things that we have learned that those of us who don't have TrackMan can still use to our advantage?
Froggy, I would say hitting up on the ball. That was one of the early things that we learned from TrackMan. Hitting up on the ball with the driver is something that makes a tremendous difference. You will most probably see if a player's swinging, let's say at 100 miles an hour and someone's hitting 5 degrees down, they're going to drive and centered hits. They're going to drive the golf ball, I'm going to say, in neutral conditions at sea level. They're going to drive the ball in the vicinity of 250 yards. If someone's hitting up on the golf ball, it doesn't have to be a lot, 2 to 3 degrees. They're going to drive the golf ball with the exact same speed in the exact same conditions, exact same strike. They're going to drive the ball 275. Who wouldn't want to just scoop up that bonus 25 yards sitting on the table by learning? And it really doesn't take much. I haven't had a student that I haven't been able to convert from hitting down to hitting up. It's easy to do. It's something everybody should do. I would say learn to hit up on the golf ball and spray the face. That really is a tremendous tool that I like to use. I use it every day in my teaching. Some strike spray, you spray the face, and players get feedback as to where they're hitting the ball on the face. And you can see it on the TrackMan numbers, how much that influences not only the distance the ball goes, but also the shape of the shot.
So hitting it in the center and hitting up are things that we've learned are really, truly important.
Yes, make a massive difference, a massive difference.
Now, as far as angle of attack with your irons, you definitely want to still continue to hit down on your irons, correct?
That is non-negotiable. With the driver, if you've got lots of speed, you can hit a couple of degrees down, you can hit a couple of degrees up, that'll be okay. With irons, it is non-negotiable. You must hit some amount down on, I'm going to say this, you must hit some amount down on all shots played off the ground.
Oh, even a fairway wood off the ground, you still
even a fairway wood. Even a fairway wood. I think far too many golfers treat fairway woods with this sweep mentality, and I see players striking the golf ball really low on the face. Right. And when you hit a ball low on the face, it launches lower. I don't teach a lot of golfers who hit their fairway woods too high. Right. Most golfers are going to hit them too low. I encourage most golfers to get rid of a 3-wood. Let's get some kind of 4 or 5-wood. Even if you keep the 3-wood shaft in a 5-wood head, that's something that works out quite nicely for people. But let's work to get those fairway woods up. And the way to do that is move the impact location up the face and try to have the club head traveling slightly down. That way you can get the ball up the face, get the impact up the face, and you're going to have more loft, more energy, more height.
When the average amateur heads to the golf course and he's practicing on the range, as far as range time goes, because you see a lot of guys, they just want to bang drivers out there all day long.
Yeah.
Andrew, what is your opinion on what is a good practice session for an amateur at the range?
I love that question, Froggy. I'm going to answer it this way. The way I share the information I share with all my students is I've got 4 S's: swing, speed, skill, and shot. And I would love for you, if you're going to go and practice, it's a practice session, it's not a warm-up session, you're going to spend 40 minutes to an hour hitting golf balls. I would love for you to take a window of time and dedicate that to swing. It's ultimately block practice. You're going to stand there and do drills. You're going to work on your technique. We're not really focused on where the golf ball's going too much. It's a little bit of a roll, but we're working on the movement. We're working on taking ownership. Second, I want you to grab 20 golf balls. You're warmed up, you're loose. You're going to tee up your driver, and you are literally going to come out of your shoes trying to smash that ball as far as you can. Ideally, I would like it for you to have some kind of feedback speed or ball speed feedback device. If you've got that, you're going to take 20 balls. You've got your personal best. You've got a goal. My goal is 170 ball speed, and you're going to stand there for 20 balls and literally come out of your shoes. There is no concern for swing. There is no concern for where the ball goes. We're just looking for speed. Right. You've got to remind your body what it's like to move, and far too many golfers forget over the years what it's like to really swing a golf club, to really move that golf club, and that's what we're going to achieve in that session. Thirdly, skill. I look at a player like a Phil Mickelson, and I go, Phil doesn't have the most technically sound golf swing in the world. But we know that he can really get the job done. How does Phil get it done? Phil gets it done by skill. He gets out there and he can control his golf ball. And so if I can find somebody and get them to spend some amount of time on the range where they're going to go, okay, I'm going to hit a low one, a high one, a fade, a draw. I'm going to hit it a little off the toe. I'm going to hit a one-handed shot. I'm going to hit one with my eyes closed. I'm going to try to top one intentionally. Ultimately, good golf is all about getting the ball to match the picture in your head. Right. And in a little skill window, I encourage people to have some fun, try some different outside the line shots, and just see what they can do with that. And go, okay, I'm learning to control my golf ball. Playing good golf is all about controlling your golf ball. In that window, you're going to step outside the lines, do some different things. It's great fun. It's very engaging. The final segment, shot. Now we're going to bridge the gap between ownership, technique, skill, speed, practice, and try to convert that into performance. This is where we bridge the gap from standing on the lesson tee to preparing to go out to play on the golf course. I would say if you hit 10 shots in your shot segment of practice, 2 drivers, one down this fairway down the right, one down that imaginary fairway down the left, 2 7-irons, 2 pitching wedges, and 2 hybrids, and go pre-shot routine. You're trying to hit your ball to the sides of certain targets, and you go about it that way. I think that's really a productive 40-minute to an hour-long session on the range. Swing, speed, skill, shot.
Now, let me ask you this. Now, I'm going out for a round. I'm got into the golf course. I know we need to stop on the driving range. We also need to hit some putts and some chips. As far as getting ready for a warm-up session, is there a certain order of clubs I should go through? Is there certain things I should do? Is there a last shot I should hit before I head to the first tee?
Froggy, I don't think so. I think everybody's different, but I have found this, that it takes people far longer to get truly loose, properly warmed up than they might think. And so I know this from just using TrackMan for myself. I can only put up max speed numbers after about 40 golf balls.
Wow.
And I want to feel like I've got my body ready to go. I would encourage everybody, I would leave the speed segment out. If you're warming up, I would spend 5 minutes working on some swing, just doing my swing reminders. I would hit some draws and some fades and some highs and some lows. And then I would go through maybe 6 clubs in the bag, hitting 2 shots with each, where I'm working on that performance. I'm trying to hit to targets. I'm getting prepared to go out and perform on the golf course. That's the way I would go about it. But it's got to be, I'm going to say this, it's got to be a minimum of 40 full swings.
That makes sense. Yesterday we spoke to Chris Baker here on
Yes.
the podcast, and I had asked Chris Baker, I said, do you ever find yourself when you're out playing on tour, do you see something another guy's doing and you're like, hey, wait a second, that looks, maybe I'll try that? And he said that there are times that what another player's doing does get into your head and it makes you think. And he said that that's part of the game, is you playing your game and not worrying about what other people are doing. Do you think that's also very key for an amateur? When he's out with his buddies, he sees something somebody else is doing. Instead of trying it, you should just stick with what you're doing.
Yeah, that sounds lovely. That sounds lovely. I could say, stick with what you're doing, but you know, and I know that ain't gonna happen.
No.
If your buddy goes and takes a lesson and he shoots 85 and he comes out the next time and shoots 75, you're going, I need some of that action.
Right. Exactly.
I once had a Swiss doctor come to my golf school. And he was a 19 handicapper when he came the first year. He came for 5 straight years. And by the time he stopped coming, I think he was about a 6 handicap. And it was amazing how many Swiss doctors started showing up in my golf schools. These guys would come all the way over from Switzerland to see if they could get some of that.
You know what? It works, though. But when you see somebody else play well, there are little things. But do you also agree that just because something works for one person doesn't mean it will work for you?
No doubt. No doubt. Yeah, for sure. We're all different. Hey, we're all different, thankfully. And that's really part of why I love coaching, is it's all about interacting with people and different bodies and different experiences and different legacies, And so, yeah, we're all different. Something that worked for your buddy is there's a strong chance it may not work for you, but it might. And so we all go, let's try it.
Yeah, that's one thing I appreciate about your channel on social media, is that you don't teach a golf swing. You work with each individual player, and what works for player A might not work for player B, and something totally different works for player C. And so that's why it is so important to go see a true teaching professional and let them see exactly what you're doing and try and improve your game. Are there any training aids that you're a big believer in?
Froggy, I love alignment rods.
Yes. I mean, they're very simple, but they do so much.
Yes. Yeah. I would say this. there's In all seriousness, there are 3 general training aids that I use in my teaching. I like alignment rods, and I use them in so many different ways beyond alignment. There's a little yellow device that you can attach to the grip of your club called a swing guide. It's an old device, and I use it 2 different ways. I use it the right way where the connector gets on your wrist, and I use it the wrong way where the connector gets off your wrist. For some people who get lots of cup in the back of that lead wrist and they get the face open and very steep, I'll try to use it the wrong way and almost get the connector above their wrist by getting their wrist that way.
Right.
I'll get them to feel it that way. And then my buddy Martin Chuck, he's got the Smart Ball, Tour Striker Smart Ball, that little ball on a lanyard that you put between your arms. I see a lot of people get those elbows a long ways apart when they get to the top. Those are pretty much it. I don't use a bunch of super technical teaching aids. I like for people to make their own discoveries and try to point them towards certain things without the help of overly technical teaching aids.
As we talked about earlier yesterday, or actually 2 days ago in the match, the work around the greens was extremely important. And I think that it's very important for average tour players, whether it's a tour player, whether it's an amateur player, is work around the greens. Are there certain principles that you teach about short game that are important with everybody?
Definitely. I think we need to understand that I'd like the sole of the club running along the ground, and it does this when we do it properly. The sole of the club runs along the ground for a lot longer space period than people think. I poll my students often and I say, how long is the club in contact with the ground for as it hits the golf ball? And they go, well, it's 1 inch, 2 inches, and it's really 6 to 8. If we understand that the sole of the club is really gliding along the ground for quite a long time, we don't have to hit the golf ball first. In fact, we seldom hit the golf ball first. But that's okay. We simply want the sole of the club gliding along the ground. I don't want it digging into the ground. So that if the sole's on the ground, we're not going to hit it fat. We're not going to hit it thin. And short game is all about strike. If you can strike the ball adequately, then you can hit adequate shots. If you're getting too much ground or you're missing the ground, now we're hitting those demoralizing shots that ping over the green or just move 2 feet.
Right. Yeah, I've had a lot of those. I know exactly what that's like.
1 is too many.
Yeah. When it comes to chipping and pitching, is it more of an arms motion or is it more of a shoulder rocking motion and making sure that you're not just moving your arms back and forth and you're actually getting some movement with your shoulders?
It's got to be both. And I know as human beings, we love to look for a formula. We love to go, okay, if I just lock this, and allow this one thing to move, I'll be good. There's body rotation, there's body pivot, there's a little hint of weight shift, and there's some arm swing as well. Is there a lot of wrists? Is there no wrists? There's a little bit of wrists. There's some wrists. And so I really like to talk to people about a pivot. Let's keep the seams. If you think about the seams that run up and down the sides of our clothing, if you can keep those seams rotating on the way through, that'll serve to get the sole of the club gliding along the ground for those 6 to 8 inches, depending on length of the grass, obviously, 6 to 8 inches. And if we can keep those seams moving, we're going to be better prepared to get that correct strike and that appropriate result that we're looking for.
Right. A lot of talk we hear, and then before we let you go, I want to talk about this decade golf and the stats that a lot of tour players are arming themselves with that are making them better players. Can you talk about decade golf and exactly what it is and how it's helping people improve?
Froggy, it's part of that knowledge that I was talking about earlier. And Scott Fawcett is a friend of mine. He's part of our program, Golf Fanatics, that we have online. And he shares some tremendous information. Scott started out he was a professional gambler, super off the charts smart at math. He was a good golfer. He wanted to plug in his mathematics intellect and see if he could use that with golf. And he got access to a whole bunch of data and started sifting through the data and looking at it from a strategic perspective. What would knowing the probabilities of a certain player as to where they could hit the golf ball, where would be the best place for them to aim from shot to shot to shot to shot. And if you understand it, it's something that can really help you take the emotion out of golf. And far too often, particularly us guys, we get out there, and one of my favorite lines is, I didn't come here to lay up. And guys love to say that, especially on golf trips. And you know that they're about to make a 7 or an 8 as soon as they say that, because they're going for some hero shot. And if you understand decade, if you understand statistics, you're going to go, no, you got like a 1 in 12 chance of pulling that shot off. You can hit that shot.
Right.
It's just most likely not going to happen. So let's make a different choice.
It's funny. You see guys on tour, and they're on a tee, nobody's around them, and they spray it over into the left rough, and it's under a tree. And everybody wants to run over and stand next to them while they hit the next shot, where they've got to hit it under a tree, a restricted backswing, and everybody's within a foot of him. And I'm like, wait a second. When he was on the tee and had no problems, he sprayed it left. Now you want to stand right next to him. I'm like, no. And these guys are the best players in the world, and they know sometimes you have to take your medicine, chop it back out in the fairway, and lift. Some bogeys are good bogeys.
For sure. And we, the regular everyday golf population, need to understand that. Something I share with people a lot is a scratch golfer from 150 yards in the fairway. Their average proximity is 31 feet. Someone who shoots 80, 42 feet. Someone who shoots 90, 56 feet. Where are you aiming? Where are you aiming? And the scratch golfer should not be aiming at that tuck pin. They've got to pick out the fat side of the green and start playing more wisely. And if you can do that, to me, that's low-hanging fruit. You don't have to go and practice to make those changes. You've simply got to increase your understanding to be able to make better decisions. And it's not always going to work, but we understand that. And that's why we aim accordingly. We plan, strategize accordingly.
Right. Andrew, I really appreciate your time. If somebody wants to come see you and improve their game, how do they go about doing that?
Froggy, thanks so much. I enjoyed bantering with you. On the web, I'm at Andrew Rice Golf, whether it's Instagram or Twitter, or I've got a Facebook page. I think the best place to reach me would be andrewricegolf.com. That's my website. I've got a ton of articles pertaining to the swing and videos and all kinds of information that I share for free there. So would love to have anyone check it out or reach out if they want to come to a golf school or go on a golf trip. We do it all.
That's awesome. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And you know what? At least we know a little more about golf now than we did when we started. That's for sure. And there's so much to be learned. And it's like you said, I think the key is we're getting more data every single day.
Yeah.
And we're getting smarter about the golf swing. It's now, everybody's got a high-speed camera in their hand when they've got a phone. We've learned so much about golf that we didn't know 20 years ago.
True. Let's use that information to help us shoot lower scores, have more fun.
Good deal. Andrew, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you tuning in, and we will talk to you tomorrow with the Samantha Marks Happy Hour. She's got Chantel McCabe right here on the Stripe Show podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Froggy.
I just want to interrupt this interview real quick and give a shout out to my friends over at OnCore Golf. OnCore provides some of the most cutting-edge technology in a golf ball that I have ever seen. Their team in Buffalo, New York is changing the script of golf technology through their perimeter-weighted designs, which offer players enhanced accuracy and control for every shot on the course. With their award-winning Elixir and Avant 55 golf balls, they are transforming the game for players of all skill levels. Visit OnCoreGolf.com/Travis Fulton for more details about their products that are revolutionizing the game.